Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of 7 Minutes Scaling Secrets. This time round, we have Caspar back again into the show. This time, he's going to tell us a little bit more about brand storytelling. And I think it's going to be an exciting episode because every brand needs a story. And today, we're going to discover how to do that. Caspar, welcome back. This episode was brought to you by Superscaling. Join our free Launchpad community today, where we've created a valuable space that has free content on how to scale your business and where we bring together entrepreneurs just like yourself. You learn how to systemize and superscale your business so that your revenues can grow to at least $100,000 a month with a productive team from all over the world, raving fans as clients and happy founders who have true freedom. Visit superscaling.com/launchpad today. And now, back to the episode.
Thank you so much for having me for the second time.
Yeah.
Back by popular demand, or not so popular demand, maybe.
Everybody loves you, man. And I think there are a lot of nuggets that you shared in the last episode that we're going to dive and delve deeper into in this episode. And I think the topic is going to be about storytelling, but specifically about brand storytelling. And that's something that's really, affecting all kinds of businesses, right? Because people don't just buy on logic alone, they buy on emotions. So tell us a little bit more about that. What exactly is brand storytelling?
Right. Well, to be honest, if I were to put this in a dictionary definition, I don't think there's a right dictionary definition for brand storytelling in a sense, right? But the idea is that, yeah, whatever you mentioned is right. Like at the end of the day, consumers' purchase decision is fully emotional, right? And I think what's really overlooked in today is really brand storytelling. And brand storytelling, basically in its most basic explanation, is literally the story of a brand, right? The story of why it exists, how it started, how it came about, how it progresses through the age, and like the story of a human being or the story of a person, just similar to that, every brand has a certain value, has a certain moral, has a certain purpose, right? And when I talk about a purpose, I don't mean as in a purpose of like its product and the problem that it solves. Talking about the bigger value that it has into impacting the society and the community, right? Okay. And from that purpose and that value, and then with that story, right, attracting people who are like-minded, right? And I think that is what brand storytelling is, right? And there's really is no right or wrong to the story that a brand has or a brand wants to portray. At the end of the day, it's all about what's its biggest purpose, how it got there, what is the map, what is the journey it took into becoming what it is, what it represents, the value that it has, and the purpose of the brand and its impact today and in the future.
Okay. We need some examples, man. Give us an example of this brand storytelling. Like, is there anybody that has done this really well?
Well, to be honest, like it's not an old, like it's not a new groundbreaking strategy, right? In fact, brand storytelling has been around for the longest time. And it defines what successful brands are today, right? In fact, a lot of the successful brands that people consume from actually leverage on storytelling. And in fact, they started because of storytelling, right? Let me give you an example. Let's talk about Apple, right? A lot of us know it. It's one of the biggest case studies that's ever been done before.
I'm using their products, like my MacBooks here, and
Absolutely. And that's testament, and that's, strong testament to why Apple is such a successful brand. It's not because of the product itself, but it's because of the story and the value that it brings to the community, to society, to the public, right? Apple, and this case study is not new. Simon Sinek, for example, has given lots of talks, right? He's given a lot of he shared a lot of wisdom through the golden circle and used that idea to really, show the credibility of storytelling for Apple. Apple's motto, that why they started what they do, is because they always wanted to challenge the status quo. They always want to do different, and they believe that different is better, right? That's why Apple started. Like, If you go back in history, if you watch, Steve Jobs' biography or biofilms, right?
Right.
He always wanted to do better. He always wanted to do different.
Yeah.
Right. And that's him as a person. And his personality and his why and his purpose has literally bled into the value of the company as well. Right. And that literally becomes the story because he wanted to challenge the status quo, do different, do better. That's why they created computers, that were better designed, that were easier, that were, for lack of a better word, sexier, groovier, cooler to have. Right. And that becomes like the value proposition. Right. Apple, at the end of the day, is a brand that represents being creative, being different. They just happen to make computers.
Right. I love that about Apple. I love the story that they've spun. And I resonate with that as well. I guess that on an emotional level connects me with the brand.
Exactly. And as a consumer, you automatically feel that, you want to be different. If you have Apple, you are more creative. If you have Apple, you are different from the rest, right? It's not about getting a very good computer, right? I mean, every computer is great. Apple's great. We've got other brands that are great, but there are people that want to be different. They want to stand out from the crowd. So they buy Apple, right? Okay. So it attracts that nature of that consumer.
Okay, so people are definitely going to be thinking in their minds, hey man, sure, but this is Apple. Oh, wait, what happens if they're running a business and it's like, Teo Ah Seng hardware store? What then?
Well, that's really easy, right? At the end of the day, your product or your service is really just, it's really just your byproduct. At the end of the day, it's easy to come up with storytelling, and it's a very simple question, and it starts with why and how, right? This is what I always ask every entrepreneur who started a business, who wants to get into a brand campaign or a marketing campaign. The first thing I ask is, why did you do what you do? And I don't mean why as a monetary outcome, right? You don't do things just because you want to make money. There is a bigger reason, right, that you took this. And it could be a personal reason, and there's no wrong in choosing a personal motivation to why you wanted to start the business, right? Like, I wanted to start Raw Spark because I wanted to be different, because I was different from the rest of my classmates in school, because I didn't want to be like my other classmates. I wanted to be different. I wanted to be eccentric. I wanted to be special. Every time the teacher said yes, I wanted to say, why not yes and why not? Why A? I wanted to come up with, why not B, C, D, E, F, G? Why not C?
Which school were you from, by the way?
I'm from St. Andrews, so I'm an SA boy, which a lot of rule breakers come from SA. Yeah. If you hear the stories, we are...
It's like the whole class will probably be saying no to the teacher, right?
That's another conversation I would say we should carry on. There are a lot of stories, but hey, and I mean this in a good way. We've always had a lot of questions, and it's always good to always ask questions. And as a kid, I've been always taught to always ask questions, to ask more questions, And I don't mean this in a defiant manner. I mean this in a, why not this way that could be better? And why are we doing what we're doing? Right? It's always good to have rationale. And, and that's why I started Raw Spark as a brand. So I extend that notion to everyone else who's starting a business as well.
But how do you develop that though? Like, I mean, people don't just get born out of nowhere and then like suddenly have this yearning to say or ask questions, right? What were you like as a kid? Why was that something that was part of your psyche and your DNA?
Well, I think it would be upbringing, really.
And just to elaborate a little bit, typically what happens in like, parenting or, child upbringing situations is that a child usually asks a lot of questions, which is common, but then they get shot down, right? They'll be like shot down by their parents, they get shot down by their teachers, they'll be, people will get frustrated with them. They'll ask, why are you asking so many questions? Or stop asking so many questions.
Right.
What was your upbringing like? Did you face that?
Well, I think we're digressing a little bit, but it's an interesting conversation, right? And I want to answer you as well. And I think this is really important in our Singapore culture as well, right? Yeah. And generally, like across the world. Like, I think as kids, the truth is in parenting, and I'm not a parent myself, but this is what I've learned from friends who are parents, right? Like good parents as well. I think, it's about asking questions, allowing the kid to ask questions, and then parents giving their kids the choice to make based on those questions, right? Like I think it's about educating kids on the outcome of their choices. That's a lot more important. I find that a lot more important than to giving kids the answer, right? Because when you give kids the outcome of their choices, then they can make those choices. And if it happens to be the wrong choice, they learn from the consequences of those wrong choices. In a sense, it's about learning the hard way. Right. And then from learning the hard way, they know, hey, I'm more confident in being able to take risks. I'm not afraid of making mistakes, right? So again, it goes back to that. I think how I was brought up as a kid was that I was allowed to make mistakes. My parents allowed me to make mistakes. My family members allowed me to make mistakes. In school, I was given the opportunity to make mistakes as well. Right?
Got it. Yeah.
And that meant that, I could have critical thinking.
Yes.
Because I think
it's so essential, right? It's not just critical thinking. I think the world around us is sometimes just too fixated on a certain way of doing things, right? The process way of doing things in Singapore, at least.
Exactly.
And I see that all the time, even as a kid when I was growing up. I remember my driving instructor asking me to do something like keep to the left or something like that, right?
Yeah.
And my first response is, why?
Yeah.
I genuinely wanted to find out why. What was the reason? How do I know when I should keep left or not? Right? What was the considerations that I mustn't be aware of?
Yeah.
And I think he got annoyed. He got annoyed because I was like he thought I was like questioning him or something.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's such a strange reaction to a student who was trying to learn something from you, who's supposed to be an instructor. But I think that's something that's not actually the exception. That's something that actually is happening quite a lot. And the worrying thing is it happens in places of authority, whether they are like parents or teachers, which does affect our future generations, right? People that are trying to learn and to grow and to develop as people.
Absolutely. I think it's important, for kids to make mistakes and to understand that failure isn't a bad thing. A lot of people look to failure as like oh my God, you failed. You won't succeed. We're given a lot of that fear, and I'll be honest with you. I won't lie to you. That fear has definitely struck me as a kid when I was young, right? And looking back, actually, if I made those mistakes, I would have learned a lot. I could have bounced back. And there's really nothing wrong with making those failures. I think I was also fortunate as a kid because it back in my school, during my time in St. Andrews, I was allowed to make mistakes. Our teachers were really different. We were quite lucky, right? And I think we have very strong alumni who've also, in a sense, in a good way, broken those rules and made those mistakes. And we've learned from them. And it's a very good thing. And going back to that culture, right? Like it's always good to learn from. In St. Andrews, we have a very strong alumni, right? So it's good to learn from the older brother,
Yeah.
So I think community also plays a part, right? Having a very strong community of being able to ask questions or able to ask questions openly, to have your own opinion of things, and even if if it's not an opinion that agrees with everybody, it's okay. You learn to agree to disagree. You learn to understand other people's point of view. You learn to understand, to come out where your point of view comes from as well. I think that's very important.
Yeah, I think that nurturing part of people's development is critical. The ability for your community or your environment to support you as a person, especially in the development phases where you're growing up, where you're developing as a person. I think that's so crucial. And I think that kind of results in you being who you are today, right? Being able to ask questions, being able to like delve into like what creates a strong story, what makes a brand, the reasons why people do the things that they do. Those are absolutely essential for any business, right? And when I work with my clients, sometimes they just go straight into the mechanics of like, how a transaction is like, how do I sell a product better? But again, like what you said, it's not a logical choice most of the time. It's really based on sometimes just pure emotions, right? Who you are,
Exactly.
why you're doing the things that you're doing, and why they should choose you over someone
Yeah.
else.
Yeah.
Those are pure emotions. So
Exactly.
yeah, let's go back to the story of
Yeah. You know
Teo
what I'm saying?
Teo Ah Seng
Yeah. You know what I'm
hardware,
saying?
right? How does
Yeah.
somebody like that create a brand, make use of brand storytelling to surface, all these points that you mentioned.
Right. So let's go back to Mr. Teo Ah Seng. So
Right.
before he's probably started this hardware company, there's probably been a story. It's not about money. He probably didn't start his hardware shop just because of money, or money alone. He's probably started it because either A, he's got a passion for it, right? He's got a passion for hardware. And or there was something that struck him that inspired him to take up that as a career. It could be maybe community as well. Community is another origin for why people do what they do, right? It's about people, and people are lacking something. He wants to be a helper, he wants to support. So at the end of the day, it goes down to personal motivation, right? It goes down to personal motivation, why they did what they did, right? That value. What is the moral, right? What is the moral of that? And how did they come up with that? Right? And from there, when they build that purpose, the value, it could be, maybe they want to make things accessible because they just want to help people. Maybe they're givers. Maybe they want to change the world, be a better, make the world a better place by allowing people, to build new communities, maybe, I don't know, construct new homes for people. And you want to do that by, fueling the hardware business or the hardware industry so that people have the tools to be able to build homes to impact society. So at the end of the day, it's all about the purpose. It's all about the value. It's all about the why they did what they did. And I would start with that, right? And when you use that story, at the end of the day, the consumers that go to Teo Ah Seng, they don't go to Teo Ah Seng because he's got the best hardware or because he's got the best price, but they go to him because he's got the right heart for it. Maybe, he's got the right value. They align with his value. They want to impact society positively. That's why they want to buy hardware from him.
Right.
It becomes an emotional response.
Right. I know this to be true because if like, for example, people always say price has to be the best, but if that's the case, then in the market there will only be one player, one person surviving and thriving, and that's the guy that probably has the lowest prices. But we know that is not true at all. There are
Exactly.
people that have, even for commodities, different prices, right? And there's a reason behind that. There's a reason why the guy with higher prices can still thrive in the economy, in the industries, despite them having like lower price competitors.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I think that brand story, the reason for being that has to be super strong.
Absolutely. It's also the same reason why people buy Under Armour, right? People buy Under Armour not just because it's great fabric. Yeah, the fabric is great. It's great material. It's a great product, no doubt. But people buy Under Armour because they want to be like Dwayne Johnson. Because Under Armour believes that they can make you a better athlete. People believe that Under Armour supports athleticism. It supports the fact that you will be better, that you'll be able to improve yourselves. So definitely people who want to improve themselves, who want to be better than, want to surpass their past results, want to be better than who they are before, will invest in Under Armour. It's the same thing. And it all boils down to the story. They're not buying the fabric. They're buying the fact that they're buying the value that they can be a better person than who they were before.
Right. I love that. That's why brand ambassadorship works. That's why
Absolutely.
yeah, all these like values that they advertise, that's why that resonates with their audience.
Exactly.
I mean, Dwayne Johnson alone, I think just based on his work ethic, has attracted like so many people, right? And he doesn't just go around advertising the fact that he's a celebrity. He advertises his work ethic. Like literally on Instagram, you see him working out. Like
Exactly.
he doesn't even do anything. He just says it's 5 a.m. I'm working out at the gym, and he's
Yeah.
sweating and he's like, pumping iron, and you see the dedication and the work that he puts in, right? And I think that resonates with people. Yeah, all right. I love what that means and that conveys. And I think brands need to really embrace that. But
Exactly.
what what how does that manifest though? Teo Ah Seng, when he considers this and then translates his why into something tangible, how does that look like?
Yeah.
Are we talking about advertisements? Are we talking about, putting that onto his signboard? How does that look like for a business like that?
Many ways, actually, really. At the end of the day, the story, the core storytelling, right? Technology, the space, the tools, the product, that's the canvas, right? Now, if he believes in that, right, and he believes in that story, it automatically bleeds into tangible assets. Let me give you an example. So from a creative, let's talk about brand campaigns, right? When you have a story, it becomes a message. When you have that message, immediately you've got the idea to come up with ads. That translates into your writing, how you present yourself as a brand, how you write in your website, how you write on your shop outlet, right? That translates into the design of the space, right? How you design your space. If you have a place that's luxurious because you want to attract people, who think of great design, who think of a higher level, automatically that would translate into the design of the space to be able to track that, right? And that's an ad, right? Then that's in your ads, your visuals, who you cast as an influencer, and that's just the marketing alone. What about the product? Well, if you believe in sustainability, if you believe in changing the world and giving positive impact in terms of eco-friendliness, for example, you could, when you come out with your product line, it's definitely got to be sustainable, right? If you care for the earth, if that is your story, automatically your products need to fall in line with that.
Got it.
Right? If you think about designing better, thinking ahead, then you've got to design your products that are great. Likewise, in a creative agency,
it's something that people don't focus enough of. Like,
exactly.
My clients who are in entrepreneurship and business, I think they start getting distracted and getting confused by the other competitors that they have out there, and they try to be like them.
Exactly.
And that dilutes the brand message that they have, right?
Absolutely.
Somebody like, for example, Mr. Teo are saying that maybe he cares about providing an all-in-one service for his customers.
Yeah.
Maybe he starts being distracted by competing on price, and then starts putting up like large signs about price decreases or sales and promotions, and that dilutes the message that he wanted to have in the first place.
Yeah.
And that confusion is what is very prevalent in a lot of businesses. They don't have the clarity of why they're doing the things that they're doing and translating into something that permeates through everything that they do in their business. I love that. That is something that I think a lot of businesses need to focus on.
Definitely, and I think it doesn't just apply to products, it applies to services as well. Like, if you believe in doing different, then as a creative agency, you can propose different ideas.
Yeah.
Or find ways, or find mediums or modalities to propose different ideas for your clients.
Yeah.
Right? If you offer like cybersecurity, you could offer alternative ways of cybersecurity that are A, cheaper, B, more accessible, C, have more quality control, right?
Yes.
That's an example. So it bleeds into whatever you do. At the end of the day, the why will steer the vision, and that will bleed into like not just your marketing and not just how your brand looks, but really into the offerings that you give, the services that you provide, the products that you make. It will translate into that automatically.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. But the caveat is that they really must believe it and take the effort into translating that into something tangible. I think some businesses say that they are like all about providing great customer support, and then there's a disconnect between what they say and what they do, because when you contact them, you don't hear back from that person for like 2 days, or when you get a reply, it's this half-assed reply that leaves you more frustrated than not.
Exactly.
Right. And then that disconnect, that gap is just massive.
Absolutely. And that's the third one as well that's overlooked, which is culture. So storytelling steers how your brand looks. Storytelling steers what your product will be in the end. But a very important thing that's also important for business owners is that storytelling will drive culture. And that immediately picks who you hire, who you put in charge of your leadership, right? Because the people are aligned with your story, they could do magic.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah.
I think that's something that's not, again, a focus of most businesses. Most businesses just hire someone that replies or responds to their advertisement, and there's no
Exactly.
qualification, there's no resonance, there's no alignment,
Yeah.
there are no matching values, and it's just terrible, right?
Yeah.
I think in terms of painting objectives and painting culture, one of the great examples is of the military, right? Like no general will tell you, I'm gonna send you on a mission and you need to walk 20 kilometers, right, in order to get to the enemy.
Yeah.
Nobody says that. The general will only say, hey man, you've got to go here and we have to take out the missile launcher here, right? And that is the objective. Clear and simple. I don't care how you do it. And the plan always goes haywire, right? The plan never goes to plan.
Exactly.
You can get inserted into the enemy's territory, and then like you realize you're at a different point, or you realize that there's now a giant river that you've not nobody knew about, and you've now got to swim across that, or whatever, right? And that plan goes awry. And I think having that culture of building up like values, that you have a soldier that knows the objective, he knows that he needs to do whatever it takes to get there. He knows that the skills that he has, the competencies. You have all your military stuff. You know how to shoot a gun. You know how to like march. You know how to take care of yourself and survive in the jungle. All those are all essential building blocks. But then that allows you to build a plan on the spot, on the fly, so that you can take care of the objective. And that's something that I think businesses need to have as well.
Exactly.
Right? To have that culture where the organization paints the organizational objectives. And while you can shape it somehow, it's more important to equip your team with the knowledge, the culture, the values, the skill sets, and then let them figure out how to actually hit the objectives.
Exactly. I totally agree with you. Definitely. I also think, national service is a very good way of building teams and building teamwork, and mutual understanding among a team. I think it's, I borrow a lot of values from that, in building the team, especially my own company as well. Our biggest commodity among teammates is actually trust. When we interview, that's one of the biggest values we look at: trust and integrity. We don't look at qualifications or we don't look at qualifications as heavily as, can they communicate? Are they honest? Are they open about their failures?
Yeah.
Culture. It's all about culture, really. And when you've got someone who's culturally aligned, you give them a story, you align them with the values of your story. It's amazing. It's amazing what wonders it can work. Yeah.
Absolutely agree. I think most of the time companies, they optimize for aptitude, the skill sets, the competencies, but it's not as important as, the attitude that a person has. Once you find somebody with the right attitude, you can train the skills, you can train the competencies, all right, and get them to where you need them to be. But you cannot train somebody for the right values. You cannot train somebody for the right mindset.
Absolutely. If you have a go-getter, no matter what you put in front of them, they will go get. You know what I'm saying? It's upbringing, it's culture. It's something you cannot. You can't trade a good team player for anybody else. A great team player is a great team player.
Yeah. Well, Caspar, thanks so much for your time, man. I'm just cognizant of the time.
Pleasure. No worries.
Yeah, the time just flew by. I hope everybody listening to this episode enjoyed it, got great nuggets of wisdom from Caspar. And hopefully, if you guys like him and like what he's sharing, let us know. We'll bring him back again for a third episode. Hey, if you guys like this episode, don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe. Caspar, please let them know how best that people can reach out to you.
Well, you can reach out to me on Instagram at Caspar Francis. Caspar is spelled Caspar Francis. You could check out rawsparkgroup.com, so www.rawsparkgroup.com. We've got an email there, so pop a question. I'll definitely answer it as well. Or any of my teammates will be able to answer as well. So yeah, they're just as amazing, if not more amazing.
Sounds good, man. We will have those links in the show notes down below as well, so that you can check it out. Thanks so much, guys. Thanks so much, Caspar. Really enjoyed this episode, and I hope all of you benefited greatly from this as well. Take care, everybody. We'll speak real soon.
Peace.